guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be centered around non-processed versus processed foods, specifically what to buy versus what to make at home. And I feel like now everyone is trying to be a lot healthier, a lot more conscious of the foods that they're eating. So I thought that it would be fun to not only share some information about, processed foods and healthy foods in general, but to also do a little grocery haul and show you guys healthy recipes that I make as someone who does try to avoid processed foods, focusing more on whole foods and foods that are minimally processed versus like snack foods, Pringles, Doritos, Snickers. All that stuff is good and we love it, but now since we're trying to be healthy, there are many alternatives and many other items that you can eat that are much more filling, but still satisfying and a lot better for your health. So if you're interested in learning more about processed versus non-processed foods, then keep on watching. So what is a processed food? Processed food refers to any food that has been altered in some way from its natural state, meaning that you cannot go out in nature and find that item specifically as it is. A lot of the foods that are sold in grocery stores are processed. However, there are different types and degrees of processed food. There are minimally processed foods, moderately processed foods, and heavily processed foods. Minimally processed foods refer to foods that have been altered in some small way, but without changing the nutritional content. For example, minimally processed foods would be any fruit or vegetable that is in plastic that is still in its natural state, but it's clear that it has been altered in some way, usually for convenience. That would be classified as a minimally processed food, and you will see a few examples of that in the grocery haul, so I'll go ahead and categorize everything when we get to there, but that's the definition of what is considered a minimally processed food. Now there are also moderately processed foods. Moderately processed foods are foods that have added ingredients to improve its flavor or its shelf life. Examples of moderately processed foods include granola bars, canned beans, flavored yogurts, anything that is still relatively healthy. However, it's clear that this item has added ingredients to either improve the flavor or, again, the shelf life. I want to reiterate that not all processed foods are bad for you, right? Like green beans, for example, in the package. No one's gonna say that's bad for you. However, it is essential that you are able to identify and differentiate between the different types of processed foods. Yogurt can be very nutritional. However, it is considered a moderately processed food when it is flavored because you are adding ingredients to it. And then lastly, heavily or ultra processed foods are foods that contain artificial additives and sweeteners. So examples of heavily processed foods include packaged snacks, sodas, instant noodles, chips, cookies, anything like that is what is considered a heavily processed food. And like I said, processed food does not always equal bad. However, heavily processed foods often contain high levels of sugars, unhealthy fats, and salt, which are not good for you. So just to drive the point home, processed food does not equal bad. However, you need to pay attention to what you're eating. Personally, what I like to do when I go to the grocery store is check the ingredients. If I cannot recognize all of the ingredients in an item that I'm purchasing, then that's something that I will opt out of. I don't always feel comfortable with eating something and not knowing what it is or what was in it. But there are changes that you can make in your diet to make eating as minimally processed as possible more accessible. That being said, I love bagels. I love to have them for breakfast sometimes, and making bagels can be a tedious process. So although I'm trying to avoid processed foods, bagels are something that I would still purchase because I love bagels, and the effort level of me going home and making my own bagels from scratch is just not something that I personally can commit to. However, if you have a lot of free time on your hands, then I would definitely recommend that you do that if that's of interest to you. But I do understand that some items are harder than others when it comes to replacing processed foods. I want to take a quick minute to just talk about a few of the items that are worth buying at the store that are processed versus things that you can make to avoid eating processed foods. So let's talk about the processed foods that I would buy versus the foods that I would opt to make at home. I'm going to start off strong with desserts and baked goods. So you know the aisle in the grocery store where they have all of the muffins, the cupcakes, the cookies. That is something that I would opt out of. Because I like to bake, I choose to make those items from scratch at home. That way there aren't any preservatives and I know exactly what's going into the items that I'm baking. So I'll leave some of my favorite recipes down below for my go-to baked goods. When you're just starting off, avoiding the baked goods section at the grocery store is just a really easy way to cut down on some of those heavily processed items. Next on to grains. I usually opt for whole wheat, which is less processed. So I like to bake with whole wheat flour. I like to eat whole wheat bread. And again, bread is probably one of those either moderately processed or highly processed items. And I know a lot of folks around the pandemic love to make bread. Even myself, I love to bake banana bread at home. But for all those everyday breads, I will still purchase that from the grocery store. And I really love Dave's Killer Bread. If you haven't tried it, I recommend. I also recommend opting for wild rice or brown rice instead of white rice. Nothing wrong with white rice, but if you're trying to eat less processed, brown rice or wild rice are both good options. Next, we can move on to the fruit. You will see in my grocery haul, I personally love to purchase fruit that has been pre-cut because it's easier for me. However, that does count as a minimally processed food. Doesn't really affect the nutritional value, but it has been processed, repackaged, and all of that. So if you're someone who is really trying to avoid any kind of processed food, then you can always buy the whole fruit yourself and cut it up. It's a great option, especially if you have time and amazing knife skills. So I will always recommend that option, even if I myself purchase the pre-cut fruits. So now I'll share some processed items that are worth buying. So let's talk about sauces. Soy sauce, mustard, ketchup. Those type of sauces are heavily processed. However, I am not going to make my own ketchup. I'm not going to make my own soy sauce. I'm not going to do any of that. And in the world that we live in, it's just unrealistic to think that every single thing that you eat is not going to be processed. So I like to pick and choose my battles. So I am perfectly happy with buying all of the sauces from the grocery store because I know that I'm not really gonna do that, just being realistic. And I wanna circle back to baking. Instead of going to the baking aisle and buying those pre-boxed items like the box brownies, the box Bisquick for your pancakes, you can make all those items at home, and that's what I like to do. So I don't buy the boxed or pre-made items anymore. I, again, will make those items from scratch. And I just think that one makes the food taste better and more unique to you, but you also know exactly what's going into your items. So I'll actually share one of my recipes where I make pancakes. So you'll see that later on in the video, but I'll show you exactly how I make the pancakes from scratch and all of that. Yeah, that's something that I like to do, and I feel like it's better for me. So I'll end off this discussion talking about meat. So I'm really trying to stay away from the deli meat, the sausages, bacon. I love all of those items, but there are alternative items that are much better for me, and I'm choosing to eat those instead now. So that being ground beef, chicken breast, all of those items are minimally processed and they don't have all of these added ingredients, and those are the things that I like to buy when I'm at the grocery store. They taste just as good. It might require a little more effort because, you know, they're not ready-made and pre-cooked, but your body will thank you, whether it be now or in the future. So opting for ground beef, ground turkey, chicken breast, again, those are really good minimally processed alternatives to the other meats that are out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little spiel. Let's get on to the grocery haul and recipes. Okay guys, so welcome to my kitchen. I'm gonna show you a grocery haul of everything that I bought. So this is everything I got, and it's in a Trader Joe's bag, but I actually got these items from Whole Foods. So let's start with the grocery haul. Starting off on top, we got some eggs, and these eggs are actually blue. I don't know if the camera's picking them up. And these are heirloom blue egg, medium grade A, and they are pasture raised on a small family farm. I love these eggs because it literally gives you some info and you get to see the bird of the month. Love these eggs. Eggs are definitely important because I feel like they're always being recalled, so I will spend a little bit more just to make sure I'm getting really good eggs. Also got some lemons, dark chocolate chunks for cookies, mixed organic herbs, some blueberries, pomegranate seeds, which unfortunately were leaking in my bag, but I do love these. Whole wheat English muffins, Kerrygold salted butter, my fave, shaved Brussels sprouts. Love these, especially the shaved ones. I think it saves me so much time. Artisola non-GMO pesto sauce. Fun fact, I love to put this on sandwiches and avocado toast. Also got some creme fraiche because I have been obsessed with making Bobby Flay eggs in the morning. Poppy, this is the raspberry rose flavor. I also picked up a strawberry lemon poppy, but I already drank that. Good Culture low-fat cottage cheese. So this is a half a pound of large peeled indie veined shrimp. Cantaloupe chunks, and if you want to go above and beyond, feel free to just buy cantaloupe and cut it up yourself. Organic sweet potato, already chopped because I have so much trouble trying to cut these on my own. Also these pistachios, I love to snack on these. So good. Some trimmed green beans, greens just to have a veggie to go with dinner. Some cotton candy grapes, which, fun fact, these are not processed. They are made through some type of breeding process during farming. Also got some beef for beef stir fry. Light brown sugar, also for cookies. And lastly, 2 organic Honeycrisp apples. These are so good. They are my favorite apples right now. So that's everything that I got from Whole Foods. It cost about $132. So not gonna lie, eating processed can be a bit more expensive, but your body will thank you. And I will go ahead and show you guys the overview of everything we got, and then we can get into some recipes and meal ideas. Let's get into these recipes. So we see sweet potato, shrimp, and Brussels sprouts. Looking really good. So starting off with the ingredients, we have sweet potatoes, add some olive oil to those. And then we have some cayenne pepper, which I'll add a sprinkle to. I love spicy. Then we have some black pepper, adding that in there. Make it really good. I love seasoning. We have allspice for a little bit of sweetness. And these Maldon sea salt flakes. This is the type of salt that I like to use. It's really good, especially for baking. Then I'll mix all of that together. I want to make sure everything is combined evenly. And then I'll throw this into my air fryer. And then we'll see here, I will preheat the air fryer to 400 degrees and for 20 minutes. Now onto the Brussels sprouts. I have Brussels here and pistachios, adding some light brown sugar to a little dish for the sauce and some less sodium soy sauce. Gonna add all of that in there. I love this sauce. Adding some sesame oil, but not too much. And because I love spice, also gonna add cayenne pepper to that. Can't live without that. And some sesame seeds, just a few because I barely have any left. And then I'm gonna mix all of those items together and then add the Brussels sprouts to a little plate bowl situation. And also the pistachios will go there as well. Gonna mix all of that together and add the sauce on top. And to make sure I don't leave any of the sauce behind, and then I'm going to mix everything together here. Looking great. Then I will add it to a baking pan just so we can get it all nice and cooked crispy and amazing. And then I'm gonna flatten it out, make sure it's all even on the pan, and that will go in the oven. Now onto the shrimp. Gonna add some garlic powder to the shrimp and some paprika. Love paprika, really just for the color. Also gonna add some olive oil like I always do, and some everyday seasoning from Trader Joe's. This is really good if you're new to seasoning. And I'm just gonna mix everything together, making sure that all sides of the shrimp are coated very well, and also adding a little more cayenne pepper. Gonna mix it some more, and there we have it. Then in a pan, I'll add some butter and add the shrimp. Just cooking it not too long, don't want to overcook it. I added some of the herbs from the grocery haul. Just trying to saute it. Also added some minced garlic. And there we have the shrimp. It looks so good. And there we have the sweet potatoes, the shrimp, looking amazing. And the Brussels, love this. And just an extra step, love to add Parmesan cheese on top to the Brussels sprouts. So that's meal number 1, all ready to go. And this is so good and healthy for you. On to the next recipe, we have beef in Brussels and a side of potatoes. So starting off with the potatoes and some diced onion. Going to add the diced onion to a pan along with the potatoes. Just going to make sure everything is combined, and then I'm going to add some olive oil to this as always, and also some paprika along with some garlic powder, cayenne pepper, and some black pepper. Gonna just coat all of that together, make sure it's all mixed. And that's all the prep for the potatoes, literally so easy. Now on to the stir-fry beef. So just gonna add some olive oil to that, a little bit of cornstarch, some soy sauce, love the soy sauce, and then some more. Then I'm going to add some Montreal steak seasoning. This is a staple. And then back to the potatoes. They're just sauteing right now. Everything looks good. And then adding some brown sugar and some water to the beef.
Then we're gonna mix everything together, and that's like the sauce slash marinade. Once that looks good like that, that's how it should look. Back to the potatoes, we see they're still browning, and they will go into the oven for 15 minutes on 400. So the beef is here, sauteing now. And once it looks like this, you can remove it from heat, add the rest of the onions, and now the Brussels sprouts. So then we're just going to add some olive oil to the Brussels sprouts. Gonna mix that in. Didn't want to do too much with the seasoning since it's going in with the beef. Just going to add some black pepper on top and cover it, mixing that around. And I'm just going to keep covering it and uncovering it until it looks how I want it to look. So that's how it should look. Then you add the beef. Oh, that looks so good. And now we're just mixing everything together, making sure it's all combined. And that's how it should look when it's done. Now time for plating. So we're going to add the potatoes first. And then we have the beef and Brussels. So you've heard of beef and broccoli. This is beef and Brussels. And that's the finished meal. And for the last of the meals, we have pancakes. We will revisit these ingredients, but we're adding that whole thing of cottage cheese to a blender along with 2 eggs. And then we're going to add the dry ingredients. So there's the flour, the sugar, and the baking powder, and then some vanilla extract, and that all goes into the blender, and we're going to mix it up. And then I'm just adding some allspice for flavor and some rum extract and some lemon juice. So then I'm going to mix it up again, and then this is for the blueberry compote. So there, all of that goes into a pot, and it boils until it looks like that. Then we add the butter to a pan for the pancakes, and I'm just going to scoop them in. I'm going to cook about 2 at a time just so I don't have any issues when flipping. So let's see how this goes. They're cooking for a bit. Gonna flip the first one, it was okay. Okay, good with the second one. And then gonna flip them again, just so it's all nice and cooked through. And then I'll remove the pancakes from the heat and plate them with the blueberry compote. And there's even some left for tomorrow.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think there's a lot of information out there about what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating. So this video is not about weight loss or healthy meals to help you lose weight, but it's more about meals that you can make at home if you're trying to avoid eating as much processed food, because there are so many ingredients, unknown ingredients, that we have no idea what they're there for, what they're doing, but they're in our food. So I think that it's great whenever you can to know what's exactly in your food and where it's coming from. So hopefully this video was informative to you, and I also hope that you try some of the recipes, and comment down below if you have any of your own recipes that you want to share. I would love to check them out. But be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.